guys, you're welcome to yet another interesting tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how I made this two-piece for my architectural friend who designed our own dress for our church third year anniversary, and this is the outcome. It has an asymmetrical flare at the hem of the skirt and also at the sleeves of the hem of the sleeves. So if this is what you like to watch, kindly watch to the end. We're going to be drafting pattern for only the top. Every other part of this garment will be done freehand method. So here I am, I folded my pattern paper, a full pattern paper into two, because we're going to need a full scale of our bodies. Then I just marked out the length of my top, including the allowance for the hemming. I made use of 2 inches extra for the hemming allowance. So from there, I'll be starting from the top of my paper downwards to mark my shoulder to my bust line, which I've done here. Then I'll be taking it again from the top towards my under bust line this way, which I've already ruled out. And lastly, I will be marking from the top of my paper downwards to my under bust measurement line to rule it out this way. So for my center fold, I'll be marking in my nipple to nipple measurement on the bust line as well as the hemming line there, and I'll be connecting both points together with a straight line this way. After doing that, I'll be putting in my shoulder measurement divided by 2 plus ½ inch for sewing allowance this way, and I'll be replicating that on my bust line this way. Then I will be rolling a straight line connecting both points together. When that is done, I'll be putting in my shoulder slant measurement of 1 inch from that point this way, and I'll from there I'll be putting in my chest measurement. Then I will also be putting in my neck width measurement this way. I used 4.5 inches. You can use lower or higher than that depending on what you're trying to achieve. Then I would be connecting my uh, chest line with a straight line this way. So I'm just going to label it chest line, bust line, under bust line, waist line, my hip line, and the hemming allowance. Now, the next thing I'll be doing is the dart intake. Taking of the dart on my under bust line, I made use of 1½ inch towards the side seam and ½ inch towards the center fold that way. So I'll be connecting it this way. I also did the same measurement on the waistline, 1½ inch towards the side of the top and ½ inch towards the center fold. Now from my hemming point, I came up by 2 inches, which happens to fall on the original hip line, and I connected it that way. And I'll be using my curve like this to connect the under bust point towards the bust line this way, and I'll be using the curve as well to do it on the other side to create the bust illusion right there. So this top is going to be having a princess dart, and I am just going to mark out the midpoint of my armhole line, and I'll be using my curve ruler to find the perfect curve to connect both points together. I mean the point on the armhole line towards the bust point area this way. Now after that is done, I'm going to be marking ½ inch on both sides of the armhole, the princess that's curve. I don't know why I keep calling armhole. So after doing that, I'll be using my curve ruler to connect both sides towards the main line of the princess curve, princess that's curve. So I'm just going to be erasing my errors there, and I will be connecting it this way. I'm just trying to find the perfect uh, fit or perfect flow of curve. So I'm going to be connecting it like this towards the main point. After that is done, I'm going to be extending that down part of the princess curve by 1 inch because we took out half inch on both sides. So I'll be replacing it back and I'll be connecting it this way. This is so that when we are joining the fabrics together, everything is going to align together, and we are making that over there so that the armhole of the dress would not be gaping. So after that is done, I'll be putting my body circumference for the bust area divided by 4, and I'll be adding in my sewing allowance. So I'll be connecting it this way towards the princess dart. So that is our armhole. So the next thing I'll be putting now is my waist circumference measurement divided by 4. I'm going to be marking it. I'm going to impute my dart intake there as well as my sewing allowance there. Now I'm also going to put my hip circumference measurement divided by 4 plus my sewing allowance on the M line there. I'm going to mark it out, and I'm going to connect the waistline to the bust line as well as to the uh, hip line using the slightest part of my curve ruler this way. So we are almost done. I'm just going to cut this out first so that we can know what we are doing. So remember that this top is it has a design at the front. I'm going to be putting the picture there for you to see, and I'll be going upward by 2 inches. You can do 1.5 inch depending on how curve illusion you want to create at the hip line. So after doing that, I'm going to be using my tracing wheel to trace out every single line on this part of the paper. Make sure you trace it well because my own tracing wheel is kind of old, so I had to exert a full pressure on it so that it can be able to reflect at the other side of the paper. So I'm going to be following every single line carefully. Please take your time to do it. So after that is done, I was able to see my dotted lines, the tracings on the other side of the paper, and I will be rolling the lines out this way. So when that is done, I've already traced the side out, the other side out. I'm going to be putting my neck depth. I made use of 3 inches for my neck depth. So I'll be connecting it to my neck width this way. And I'll also be tracing that out because I want the exact shape on the other side of my pattern. So I'm just going to trace it out. So you can see we have a full neckline. Initially, we wanted to incorporate lace material to this skirt and blouse design at the dotted area of this design. So at this point in this video, this is where I was trying to draw out the shape for the style line using my freehand, and at the slit area for the top, I went up by about 5 inches, and you can see me here trying to draw out the asymmetrical shape. So the initial plan for this pattern was that I was going to cut along that style line in order to be able to incorporate the lace material, but later we changed our mind. So I would advise you to skip this part, but if you want to incorporate your lace to it, you can do this part. So for the reference purpose for this kind of design or asymmetrical design, I would advise that you make sure that you follow the uh, center fold. You use your center fold as a guideline when doing your asymmetrical design. You can see the way I am curving out that style line towards the neck width of my top, and from that curve I came down by 6 inches in order to draw out the asymmetry of the neckline. So from the other neck width, I will be using my curve ruler to connect it this way towards it to draw out our new neckline, and I will be erasing the old neckline, as well as the bottom part of our top. You can see the way the asymmetry is, the way I drew it. At one part is more slanted than the other part, and we are almost through with the front pattern of our blouse. And remember, this is the only part we'll be making use of a pattern paper for. Other parts will be done on directly on the fabric. So make sure that you label everywhere appropriately. So I'll be cutting out the pattern now. So this part is the part where you should skip, because I was not still aware that I will not be making use of the yellow lace again. So I'll advise you not to slit it open, but you can cut out the neckline of it. And we are done with the front pattern of it. Here I am just giving it the necessary labeling for reference sake. So I am going to go ahead to cut out my fabric with this pattern, interface it, and as well with the lining. The back part of this top is just the regular bodies for the back part. With that's all. I didn't do anything special. So if you've not watched my video on how to draft a basic bodies, I'll advise you do so. So for the skirt part of this dress, I'm going to start by folding my fabric wrong side facing up, because that is where you'll be making your markings. And I'm going to roll out a starting line on the selvage area there. And I folded my fabric using the widest part of the down part of the body, which is my hips divided by 4 plus my sewing allowance. And you can see the way I place my tape measure 2 inches away from the starting line, and I marked out the total length for the skirt plus 1.5 inch allowance, sewing allowance. You can see the way I'm placing my tape measure again to mark out the hip line, and I'm going to rule it out. The 2 inches I left out while placing my tape measure indicates the waistband for my skirt. So I'm going to be putting in my waist measurement divided by 4 plus my sewing allowance on the waistline there. I'll be doing the same for the hip area. I just extended my increased the width of my fabric because I discovered it was not enough. So I'm going to put in my waist measurement again divided by 4 plus my sewing allowance, and I'll do the same for the hip line including my sewing allowance. I'll put the same measurement there and come in by 1 inch because I want my skirt to look a little bit penciled. So I'll be using my ruler, the slightest curve area, to connect the waist to the hip this way, and I'll be using the straight part of it to connect it from the hip to the hem area. So before cutting out, make sure that you confirm your measurements very well. It's necessary when you are cutting directly on your fabric. Make sure that you make confirmation so you will not have stories to tell. So I'm going to just cut it out this way first because I'll be using this to draft out the back pattern of the skirt. So I'll be folding my fabric into two again, wrong side facing upwards, but making sure that it's 2 inches bigger than the front for the uh, purpose of the skirt zipper at the back. So I'll be placing the pattern on it this way. So you can see the 2 inches excess at the center fold for the back there. That will be where we're going to install our zipper. And I will be cutting it out this way. So after cutting it out, I'll be extending the hip line outward this way and also the waistline outward. After extension, I will be going inward by ½ inch on that center fold on the waistline to create the zipper contour so that when you install your zipper, it will not be bulgy. So from the hip line, I'm going down by 8 inches. This is not a general number. I measured my client from her waist to the down of her bottom. Yeah. So I'm going to go inward on that line by half inch. I connected it and I extended it downward. That is just to create an illusion of, a curvy back behind. Yeah. For your client. You can skip this part if you don't want. You can just slit open that part and cut out the zipper contour. But I just want a little bit of shape at the back. So after doing that, I'm going to just cut out the sides of my skirt this way. And we are almost done. So I'm just notching the center and I'll be using this pattern to cut out my lining. So I'm just smoothing out that curve area, not to make it too edgy. I'll be cutting out my lining to turn the skirt. So I'm just notching out the 2 inches allowance there. So quickly, I'm just going to show you how I joined that princess dart to the main bodies, the front bodies of the top. I'm using my pins to hook them. I've already cut them out, interfaced necessary pieces, cut out the linings, and I will be using them to turn the main fabric out. So if you're a beginner and you don't know how to sew directly your princess dart, I would advise you pin them together and sew. So this is my back. I'm going to take it to my machine, turn it, and sew it up the darts. So I'll do the same for the front as well. This is my front lining. So I have turned them out this way, and I've also joined the shoulders together for both the front piece and the back pieces. So I'm just going to put in my body circumference, the accurate body circumference, in order to shape it out. So in order for this video not to be too long, I decided to skip some parts. So I'll be using the crease line at the midpoint there to mark out the accurate measurement. I divided the body circumference by 4 and I'm marking it out on both sides to give us accurate body's measurement using that ironed crease line at the center fold of my fabric. So I'm going to be connecting all the points together like this. And I'll be joining the front and the back together along the side, and I'll be stitching them together. So for the skirt part, I've gone ahead to turn the hips, the lining to the main fabric for the front. I'm going to shape it out as well. So I'm putting in my waist measurement. To mark my hip line, I dropped out 2 inches away from my tape measure to mark the hip line. And from the center there, I'm marking half quarter of my hip circumference measurement on each side. And for the down part as well, I am going to put in the same measurement, but I'm going to go inward by 1 inch because I want it to be a little bit penciled. So I'm going to smoothen out that hip line edge there because the body is not edgy, it's actually curved. So this is the back aspect of it. I'm going to be placing it underneath the the front pattern, right side facing themselves, and I'll be stitching along the lines. So right now, this is how it looks like. It's time to draft the sleeve. I've gone ahead to measure around the armhole because we'll be needing it to draft our measurement. And I've folded my fabric using my round arm measurement circumference divided by 4 plus 2 inches allowance. I'm putting in the sleeve length. Remember, this is a bell, not really a bell sleeve, but it has an attachment with an asymmetrical bell. Yes. So I'm folding my fabric well into two, making sure that the wrong side is facing me and it's properly aligned. I've gone ahead to also mark the starting line. From that starting line, I'll be putting in my cap height measurement for the sleeve here, and I would be ruling it out this way. After that is done, I'll also be ruling a diagonal line from the top part straight down to the end like this. So I'll be putting in my wrist measurement divided by 2 plus my sewing allowance, and I'll be connecting this point to this point here. When that is done, I'll be marking out the half measurement of that diagonal line, the midpoint, I mean, I'll be marking it out this way. And from that point, I would place my tape measure this way to mark half inch downward. And I'm going to draw a slight curve towards the end, and I would blend it out towards the cap of the sleeve, and that we have the front armhole, and this other point here would represent the back armhole. So after cutting out the sleeve, I'm just going to open it up this way to cut out the front curve of the sleeve that will be attached to the front armhole, and we're almost done with the sleeve drafting. But for now, I'm going to show you how the waistband of the skirt is. I have folded in 5 inches width. That is, when you fold into two, you're going to have 2.5, 2 inch for the actual waistband width, and half inch for attaching it to the skirt. So I use the waist measurement to cut this out, as you can see me do here, and I'm going to be attaching it to my skirt waistline. So I'm just going to show you how I did this. I folded it like this, right side facing right side, and I sewed up the two edges together, and I will be attaching it to my skirt this way. So I'm just going to be pinning it to my skirt waistline like this. And I'll be pinning it like this. So I'm going to be running a straight stitch to hold them together. Then I'm going to flip it this way and top stitch it. And after doing that, I'm going to also install my zipper to it. So after installing your zipper and fixing your waistband, it's time to install the flare part of the skirt around the hem area. Right now you can see me, I'm just measuring round that opening in order to get the accurate measurement for this. So you know the way you fold your fabric when you want to cut a circle skirt. That is the way you're going to fold your fabric in two places like this, with folds at the top and also at the side. So I need you to pay close attention to this. I would be marking my total flare length first to create a semicircle. I'm not going to be cutting the inner circle where it will be attached to the hem line yet. So I'm just going to cut out this full length of my flare to create a cone shape. Now I'll be cutting it out this way. I'm going to be cutting it out this way. So it's just similar to when you want to cut a circle skirt. The only difference is I'm not cutting the inner circle in the middle. I'm going to measure that midpoint towards the end, and I'm going to look for the half measurement of it and add about 2 or 3 inches depending on how uh, high you want the asymmetric to be. So I'm just going to fold it this way. You see the way I'm folding it? I'm not folding it in a way that the hem lines are equal. So I'm going to put the hem line circumference, which is gotten by dividing that measurement we got by 6.28. And I'm going to cut that small cone out like this. And I'm going to notch every point because it's going to make my joining easy. So you can see we formed out the asymmetry flare for the skirt, and I'll be pinning it right side all round. So I'll be attaching it to the skirt by sewing it all around as well as hemming the flare, and we are done with our skirt. So onto the fleece for the sleeve. I'm going to do the same method I did for my skirt. I measured round the wrist of my sleeve, and I'm going to be folding my fabric into two this way, and I'll be cutting out the total length of my uh, flare. So I'm going to be marking out the total length of it, including my sewing allowance for hemming and for attaching it to the sleeve like this. Then I'll be cutting out the cone. After doing that, I'll look for the midpoint of that half of my semicircle, and I'll add about 2 inches to it and fold it this way. Then I'm going to impute the circumference measurement of my wrist divided by 6.28 this way, and I'm going to cut it. I'm going to also notch those points together so that I'll be able to attach it to my sleeves conveniently. After that, I'm going to be hemming my flare all round. I'll be doing the same process for the other side of the sleeve, and here is the outcome of it. This is the result, how beautiful she looked. If you got value from this content, kindly like, subscribe, hit on your notification bell, and see you on the next one. Bye.